Hello, everybody. This is Sarah Colato of Architecture Talk Tongue. Today, my guest is Oliver Thomas. I'm very excited. Oliver also has a podcast and a publication platform dedicated to entrepreneurship, technology, and architecture, Archi Network. And we're going to talk a little bit about the origins of the platform and his plans for it. So, Ollie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's exciting. So, tell us a little bit about yourself then.
My name's Ollie. I'm an architect, so I kind of went through a pretty standard route to architecture. Like in the UK, studied in Oxford Brookes in Liverpool, and spent a few years working as an architect, and was always, even for university and working in practice, I was always interested in the technology side of architecture, and I slowly just kind of pursued that as a designer. I was like always interested in using Grasshopper and BIM whilst designing at the same time. I spent a few years just being a regular old architect, designing stuff and being that kind of Grasshopper guy, I guess, on the team. And then I started to branch outside of, the typical architecture route. I joined Front, where I was kind of wanted to learn how to build things with computation, and went to work for Front, who are a facade consultancy specialist. And kind of learned how things are actually built, which was kind of an eye opener for an architect, and but also how to build things with technology like computation and Grasshopper and stuff like that. And then I eventually wanted to come back to the architecture world, so that's when I joined Big, which is where I work now, and I'm currently the design technology manager of the London office. I just moved to the London office a few months ago. Spent a few years in the New York office, so I decided to come back home to the UK after spending almost 10 years abroad between Hong Kong, New York. I decided to come back. So yeah, now I'm in the London office of Big. Those are quick fly through of my CV, I guess.
Yeah, it sounds exciting. So right now, I'm guessing you're combining more of that passion for technology and architecture already with Big, and that's for developing new designs. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so my role within Big is kind of as design technology is the umbrella term for anything within the world of architecture and technology, essentially. But the core things are kind of computation. BIM is obviously core to our design process, and then you've got things like bit of visualization, augmented reality, virtual reality, and then there's the kind of other topics of digital fabrication, or we sometimes we do talks just in the office on blockchain, like what it is, why would we care about architects, or what is this metaverse thing, and topics like that. So anything within that realm is kind of I'm interested in. And so on one hand, my role within the office, on a day-to-day role, I'm kind of helping the teams within the each project, whether it's BIM or computational needs, helping them whatever their task is. And then on the other hand, I'm kind of testing new tools and technologies, or creating training in the office to like just up everyone's BIM or computational skill sets, or trying to introduce new tools and technologies that add to the kind of unique environment here at Big.
Sounds exciting. So I'm guessing that there is a big chunk of research and also looking into what's new at the market. You mentioned Metaverse and NFTs. Now they're quite a trendy topic.
Yeah.
This last year, and I did actually see that you've had some talks on that topic as well with the Archi Network. So tell us a little bit about that project. It's your private project, and it also combines the same passions. So tell us a little bit more. It has to do with building a community online too.
Yeah. So I started the Archi-Tech Network like almost a year ago now, with a couple other guys, and we started it because we thought that there was a little bit of a gap between what you get taught in university and what you need in practice in terms of the technology side of architecture. You think, when I was back at universities, it's like 90% of what you do is learning how to design and all that kind of stuff, which it should be the majority of stuff, but there's still a lot of parts that are missed out that are key to kind of working in practice. And then the other thing is like the architecture industry, we whilst we are, we're more on the innovation side within the construction industry, we're still quite slow to adopt technologies when you kind of look at other industries. So we thought about what if we could create a platform where we can have discussions about various technologies. We can do quick videos on tools and tutorials on how to do things, and eventually get to the point where we're creating long format courses. And so we started it about a year ago. We jumped onto like the Clubhouse bandwagon.
Oh, yes.
During that was like, I think we were kind of riding the hype of Clubhouse. So we thought we'd join as kind of a new platform. And whilst we were talking about ways to get started, it was like a really easy way to just have conversations. It's audio only, and it was a new platform. So we thought, we could start this like tomorrow and just have conversations and just, share a bit of our knowledge, but also have people come on and just discuss like ideas and technologies and how would they affect the architecture industry. And so, that's how we got started. And then we just created a YouTube channel a few months ago. So kind of releasing these, quick videos on Rhino Inside or little videos like that. And then we're also starting to record like long format courses. So it's a little bit of everything, but it's been kind of fun to make a little online platform and get into the whole crazy world of social media and that kind of stuff. But I think our goal is to really try and make learning about technology accessible to as many people as possible. So much of the stuff we have is anyone can come and tune into our Clubhouse talks. You can literally come in and ask us a question. The great thing about Clubhouse is you don't need to be prepared for it. You like in terms of other people joining, you just sit there. It's just audio. You could be sat there in your pajamas. No one would know. So there's like very little preparation to jump on, and you can come and join in the conversation. And I think that's what's been interesting about Clubhouse. But as we move to our YouTube channel, I think we'll also start to do talks like this, where you can actually see the person and connect with them a little bit more, and maybe have more in-depth one-to-one conversations. So it's a bit of a mix.
Sounds exciting. And tell me a little bit more about the online courses. What sort of stuff are you guys going to be teaching?
I think we'll be teaching like the core, what we think makes the tools that we think that architects will need now in terms of like their digital skill sets. So Grasshopper, Rhino, Revit, Rhino Inside, Enscape. We'll be doing a whole bunch of different courses. I think we're going to start. So this will be breaking news, but we're still working out the exact dates. But I think we'll be doing a Grasshopper masterclass towards the end of March this year, which will be completely free for anyone to join. It'll be around 3 afternoons of going from not knowing Grasshopper at all the way to like completing a little project. And the reason why we want to do that is because I think we're big believers in architects having a computational skill set. And I think it's going to be a critical thing for architects in the future or even now. And so we wanted to just do this one to kick off the course side of the platform and just open it up to anyone that will join and see how many people turn up. Hopefully more.
That's amazing. I love it. And I love that you're making it available for free as well, which, super encouraging. And are you going to teach it live to start with and then record?
Yeah. So it will be live, and then we'll have to edit the videos and put them on. and you can access them through our platform. So yeah,
Sounds good.
we'll do. We always like our plan was we'll do a bit of a mix of stuff for free and stuff that's paid. We want to make it as affordable as possible, but of course we want to like be able to hire other experts to come in eventually. But for now, it's just us going down into the basement and recording a bunch of courses and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course, which is exciting. It's really, I think it's great also you as a team coming together, but then teaching, sharing knowledge, it's always really beautiful, and seeing these students achieve some results within the time period of the course.
Yeah, no.
So I'm sure it'll be exciting.
Yeah. I mean, that's always great when you even like, teaching people inside the office and, let's say Revit, for example, they're completely new to it. And then a few days later you come back and they're like, building stuff and have learned more stuff. It's always, really nice to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so with the Archi network, the biggest focus is sort of looking at the intersection of technology and architecture. So, what's in for 2022 for you? Some exciting new
Topics.
guests, or?
I mean, there's so many things going on. One of the reasons we did start it was because I think it is a really interesting time to be an architect. We're in an industry that is ready for quite a lot of disruption, especially when you look at like the construction industry, for example. I use this statistic or this quote all the time. I hope it is. I hope it is true. But like the construction industry has been one of the few industries to decline in efficiency in the last 10 years. So when you think about like we're building slower now than we were 10 years ago, which is a crazy statistic. Like imagine, we're producing cars at a slower rate, or like, technology going backwards. So I think there's like loads of really interesting stuff. It's really hard to pick out specific ones. I mean, we already kind of touched on a few of the buzzwords already. Everyone's like talking about the metaverse and game engines coming into the industry, blockchain and NFT, and like everyone's like super excited about these words, but no one really knows exactly how it's going to land or affect the industry. I think the metaverse is going to be an interesting one this year to see. Will we see more architects getting into that space, or will we see architecture firms going into the metaverse? And the metaverse is obviously highly connected with things like NFTs and blockchain and cryptocurrencies. So like, how will they blend together? Yeah, it's hard to pick a few things. 3D printing, I think 3D printing is like moving at an incredible rate. And you can see like now, companies like Icon 3D printing, 3D printing homes today in America. And it's just like, it's an exciting time. It's almost too, like you always, something new comes up and you go down that rabbit hole of NFTs for architects, and it's like, what's all this? And then you come back and the metaverse is is on the horizon. So yeah, I think it's a really exciting time for kind of architecture and technology. But yeah, I think maybe 2022, will that be the year of the metaverse, and will it materialize into something, or will it take a few years till we actually see architects using it or working in it or stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also fascinated by this topic and curious to see where it goes. I mean, so there's been a few metaverses, and they were kind of used, like Sandbox, for example, they were used very commercially, and we haven't yet got to see really architecture proper stepping into it, outside of the Krista Kim's Mars house that she sold last year in March. And that is quite a great experience, that you can experience in VR, and also a good example of how it can go into mainstream and make you money as well as a designer. And I think that really sort of opens a new potential. I know that currently she's herself working on a new metaverse, and there's a lot of new things coming up, and every day almost I hear about Nike or Louis Vuitton or
Right, right.
Prada, like building something in a metaverse and
Yeah,
creating collections in NFT. And so I think that there is great potential. However, I'm curious to see really how all of this will find its way, and to which extent architecture practices will actually decide to invest in this and start producing
yeah,
work for the metaverse. I think that the potential is enormous, but I do also, and I've seen that before, where architects come in and they're like, yeah, but what about sustainability? And this is not real world, and and we care about solving real life problems and not just
yeah,
being all about design. And so, like, there will be this absolutely amazing thinkers that will just stay back, and in which case that
yeah.
will definitely affect the movement. So there'll definitely gonna have to be some pioneers that will step into it, and I'm curious
Right,
to see
right. I
what
think it's
happens here.
yeah. I think that's a great point. I mean, on one hand, you think about like architects or an architecture firm. I mean, the vast majority of the work we do will not get built, right? I think, uh, a pretty good rate for an architect, I'm just guessing off the top of my head, is like maybe 30% of your buildings get built. I think that's even probably quite high. So when you think about it, like the majority of your work are ideas that just live in a virtual world of Rhino or Revit or something on your server in your company or whatever. So like you have all these ideas, and they don't necessarily get out there into the world. So when you think of the metaverse, could this be a new place for people to at least, you can put some of those ideas that don't get built into the metaverse, and people experience it, and it maybe sparks another idea for someone else that may get built. So on one hand, we are a great industry for, and of course we are architects, that we design space and all these kind of things, and that's what is still the same challenge in the metaverse. But then on the other hand is like, are we already too trained in real world and things like structure and gravity, for example, where in the
Yeah.
metaverse, like, just none of those things exist. So it's like you really have to disconnect with yourself, with all the things that you've been trained maybe not to do as a I guess you call yourself a real world architect and a metaverse architect, right? So on one hand, I think it's a great opportunity for architects, especially maybe more speculative architects that are like really pushing the boundaries of geometry and form, and it's just something that is very hard to build in the real world. You could really experiment with people interacting with it and understanding it in the metaverse, for example. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting time. I really think architects should look into it, but I agree. Some will be like, I'm only interested in building. Of course, that's why we're architects. We want to see things get built. That's the goal, and that's how it should be. But I think we should also supplement that with these new, opportunities to build in the metaverse. Where like, I mean, I did my dissertation in 2009 on video games and architecture, and like part of my argument was, I think at the time everyone, like, the video game Halo was massive, right? I think it was like the biggest game, or Sim City or something like that. But
Yeah.
like, how many people have like gone through the buildings on one of those super popular games? Is like, millions of people.
Mhm.
Whereas how many people have actually get to go and experience the Gherkin here in London, or like actually go and like go in it? And when you think of it that way, it's like more people will maybe experience that space or your design or your idea in the video game than they would in the real world. So are you creating more? Are you affecting more people and sparking new ideas more in a video game than you could do in the real world? So and I think now it's like 10 years or more than 10 years, and this thing is just coming to fruition with the metaverse. And like, also we see architects getting into video games and like collaborating with different video game and game engines and stuff like that. So yeah, I think we should definitely keep an eye on it and jump into it as architects.
Yeah, and I think that something that's perhaps still missing is like this tangible way in which people can really bite into that fruit. So it's like, well, there is this metaverse, and we have all this technology that's already been there for, you know, a minimum of 10 years, if not longer, with technology for video games and VR and everything. And then now everything comes together. And we started to see how that affects economy with like crypto money and investments, and obviously NFT right now. It's a serious game. I myself, I'm interested in these topics, and every day there are new collections coming out, and people are like fighting for these crazy bulls or whatever, which are like pixelized little gifts
Little
or
dudes,
whatever.
yeah.
It's actually mad to think the amount of money that is put on that object and how valuable it is. And it's real money, it's real investments. People are actually seeing a potential for like economic, you know, investment in that. So we're talking about artwork. Is this really artwork? I wouldn't call it an art. It's just it's like horrible gifts. Most of them are really ugly. But these are like the beginnings of something more promising. And so
Yeah.
will we have like a more sophisticated collections? You know, we already have like Refi Gandol creating amazing artwork. Maybe we have like a digital Picasso one day, or famous people starting to create more and more NFT. And then, you know, if you want to collect that, you know, what stops you from, like, what's the difference between having a tangible physical painting of an artist or an NFT created by someone famous? And I think that then, using that argument, we can say the same about architecture, you know, commissioning Zaha Hadid architects to build something or having their NFT. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think, you know, the whole you can see like NFTs and metaverse. There's all these like strings, you know, that you can follow, and they are starting to conjoin together. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see that evolve. But yeah, I mean, the NFT thing is another thread that's been really interesting to follow. We've had a few people on the podcast to like talk about, you know, NFTs and their architects getting into that space. I think it's really interesting. For me, it's like, again, going back to that argument that so much of what we, you know, we produce all these digital assets, whether it's renders, 3D models, diagrams, all this kind of stuff. And, you know, sometimes that project doesn't progress, it doesn't get built. But, you know, through NFTs, is there a way to create additional revenue by NFTing your work or anything that you produce that's a byproduct of your design process? I think there's a completely different discussion when you're creating specific things to sell as NFTs, because then it's like you know, you have an architecture firm and you then want to open like an art department on the side where you're creating, you know, it could be something nothing to do with art. It could be like little gifts of another animal that's hot topic that month. So I think, you know, and also NFTs right now is all about digital art, and that's what it's latched onto, but it's way bigger than that. You know, you could use What interests me more is whether it's like a class as an NFT or it's a cryptocurrency, but like, could you use this blockchain as a way to fund architecture? Could you raise money to build architecture? I think that's what's super interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's almost like, you know, eBay started selling Beanie Babies, I think, right? So like, is this digital art and stuff the Beanie Babies for NFTs and like some kind of NFT platform and stuff like that? So yeah, there's all these, you know, really exciting things that have emerged over the last few years that are really, you know, actually very applicable and very accessible to architects. And yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see more and more people jump into that space. At the same time, I think, you know, it's on face value, people see an NFT and they see it's like a, you know, right now it's like all the different monkey and ape NFTs going for like, you know, you see it's gone for like 80 grand or 1.2, something ridiculous. And the amount of people that reach out and is like, oh, why don't you create some like some NFTs like that and do like a different kind of monkey or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think the reality is like there's only so many people really making money out of this. There's a lot of people just throwing NFTs or like art as NFTs out there. And it's kind of like I keep using the analogy of like walking into a gallery, like a real gallery. You walk into the Tate and you see like a painting of a line on it or something, and it's worth like 1.2 million pounds. Yes, you could go home and you could maybe create a painting just like that, but there's the elements of the have you built up a name for yourself as an architect or an artist or something like that? Do you have a network where you can go and publish this, like a big social media following or something where you can gain some kind of traction? So it's not just, I don't know how many people are like creating these things, putting it up on a random NFT platform, and boom, it just explodes. I'm sure there are people, and it's sure it's creating opportunities, but like the Mars house that you brought up. So I think people look at that as like that was kind of someone created a house on the Mars and sold it as an NFT, but she's actually a very well established artist. I don't think she's from an architecture background. She just created a piece of architecture, but she was a very well-known artist that already has like a few people that are buying and collecting her works. So it's not like some random person just creating an art piece and throwing it up there. So, but I think it does create opportunities. If you create something that's interesting and goes viral or whatever, then you can either create one yourself or invest in one that then goes nuts. So yeah, it's like the cryptocurrency world is it's a bit of a gamble at the moment, but it's interesting to see how it's kind of evolving and leveling out and finding its place within society or our industry in particular.
For sure, and I think that you're right with the respect of with regards to, for example, Krista Kim. She already has been an established artist before, but I think that in that respect, a lot of architecture practices that are already established can actually pioneer something new into the NFT world, and I think it's very fresh, and not everyone yet completely knows how to bite into it. Do we want to publicize our 2D drawings or 3D drawings in form of a NFT art piece? Or do we want to design a full architecture and have it being experienced through VR glasses? Are we going to, for example, create collaborations with Gucci and Prada and start designing gallery spaces for them, or virtual exhibits where they can put their fashion, because these sort of projects are appearing now, and these big fashion houses are actually indeed building like spaces. They're galleries, they're sort of catwalk exhibition places that you can go and experience in the virtual reality space. And so certainly there is potential there. But again, if you don't have these kind of connections and you're not recognized, who's going to work with you, even in the NFT space, right? Or in that virtual reality. So I think it is definitely more of a potential for already established architecture studios that are innovative. But it's not to say that there isn't space for pioneering new ideas, just because this whole technology is so new. No one really knows where it's going to go and how it's going to affect. It's when internet appeared, the vast potential of internet and what it can hold. But the very beginnings of it all, when we still didn't know how we're going to use that. And so certainly, big brands, big computer companies, and Google made it somehow. But there was also a lot of amazing people that pioneered ideas that really grew into something big, like Facebook, for example, right? So there's definitely a lot of potential there. And I think, it's definitely like a bit of an overwhelming topic, a little bit of a FOMO associated to it. I think now everyone wants to on a bandwagon, not really knowing quite how and why and what for and what to create. But we have a question here from David, and David, I think, is just a great question. He says, what about the environmental aspects of minting NFT? And I think, that's a really good point in respect of like, can we add more value and meaning into all of this? Even though it's such a new technology and we yet don't know exactly where it's going, can we find ways in which, for example, that can have a good effect on sustainability or the environment? What do you think
Yeah.
about it, Ollie?
Yeah, this is the whole environmental impact of NFTs is like that's the one thing that always comes up, and rightly so. It's not great, but I think that it's an emerging technology. There are blockchains out there, for example, that have way less environmental impacts, like Tezos, for example, and it's all to do with whether the blockchain that's being used is in proof of work or proof of stake. So proof of stake blockchains use significantly less energy, almost nothing to compared to platforms like Ethereum and all that kind of stuff. But this technology is developing. It will, of course, get more efficient, and I'm sure that's something that will be solved soon. And as I say, that there are already environmental blockchains that you can use, like Tezos. A lot of people are using Tezos specifically for NFTs because its environmental footprint is way less. So yeah, and I think that's also why you may see architects slightly hesitant to get into it until they fully understand the impacts of that side of it. Obviously, Chris Preck came out and he had created a series of NFTs, and then talked about the environmental impact and that kind of stuff. But yeah, the technology is developing, and you can use environmentally friendly blockchains. But the kind of typical way of minting NFTs usually uses Ethereum, which is the environmental impact for Ethereum is still quite high. So yeah, but like any technology, it will develop, and I'm sure they'll make it way more sustainable to do it. They'll have to.
Yeah, and if they don't, then I think we can find ways in which we can combine that technology with a little bit more value and meaning. I mean, at the end of the day, as designers, we should be able to work with all these problems, but also try out new technologies, because it's one of those things that sooner or later it might really take a big chunk of our life and become a big part of the way we experience, for example, interact online and experience internet and artwork and business and commerce. And sometimes people say, oh, I don't want to really jump on it, and then at some point it's too late. It just becomes a part of reality.
That's where you were talking about. Yeah, you'll see firms jumping into it. You'll also see new people jumping into it, and I think you'll see a mix of like innovators being established. We'll also see familiar names jumping into it, like different companies and stuff. So I really think it'll be a mix of people that and new people, whether it's in the metaverse or the blockchain side of things. And we'll also see it's not just I think we'll have some good competition. It's not I think you see game designers coming in. You'll see the like guys that work in the movie world coming in and into the metaverse and creating all these incredible landscapes and stuff like that. So it's really we won't be the only ones, and we'll have some competition for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. So Ollie, if people want to find out more about Archi Network or find you online, where do they go?
So maybe start off on Instagram. You can follow Archi-Tech Network, and that's where we usually post upcoming talks or anything that we've coming. That's kind of like our soundboard kind of thing. Otherwise, you can also find us on Clubhouse, on YouTube, Archi-Tech Network. Otherwise, you can also reach out to me on Ollie_T on Instagram. And I'm always happy to kind of answer anyone's questions or reach out and have a little chat on the side of something interesting that's going on in the industry. So yeah. Otherwise, anyone can, like I said, anyone can come and join our Clubhouse talks. We've actually got one this weekend where we're going to have a friend of ours that's a recruiter that's going to talk about tips and tricks for landing your dream job. So, what kind of softwares are employers actually asking recruiters for and stuff like that. So, yeah, come join us on YouTube, Instagram, or Clubhouse.
Awesome. Sounds brilliant. All right. Thank you so much, Ollie, for joining today. And we'll put the links down below in the comments. And yeah, looking forward for more content from you and Archi-Tech Network.
For sure, yeah. I'm looking forward to. I'm sure we'll speak again in the future, and we'll have lots of new topics and things to discuss then.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for tuning in, guys. If you haven't yet, go to Sarah Colata on YouTube and subscribe. That's where we always stream these videos and these conversations to, as well as LinkedIn. So if you haven't yet, just go and connect so that you can be updated on a go whenever we have interviews and great guests coming in. Thank you so much. Thanks, Ollie, again, and I'll see you all soon.
Cheers. Thank you.